Dynamic plays by today's Hoopers provide fans with many championship highlights. But unbeknownst to these youngsters, championship highlights by the Beck's Cougars were captured on these courts. Former player Stancel Ferguson has the story.
We have a meeting with the World Anti-Doping Agency.
And athletes under strict scrutiny through the process of anti-doping. That and more on this edition of Time Out. But first, this commercial break.
Beginning Monday, September 16th, it's the new lineup of ZNS News and Current Affairs, 6 p.m. It's What's Trending, Lifestyles in the Afternoon with Stacey Campbell Marshall, 6:30. We head to the north for the Bahamas Tonight Northern Edition, 7 p.m. It's the Bahamas Tonight National Report, followed by the Bahamas Tonight Access, now at 7:30. Then, at 8 p.m., your nightly news analysis show, The Rundown, with Clint Watson, and 11 p.m., the Bahamas Tonight at 11 with Royston Jones. It's a full lineup of the new ZNS, and it starts Monday, September 16th. Only the sun covers the Bahamas better.
Clint Watson has been the trusted voice of journalism for over 2 decades. He is your first choice for hard-hitting discussions, your best choice for current affairs issues and investigative journalism. It's time to start the journey of relentless journalism. It's time to start the journey of facts over fiction. It's time for The Rundown with Clint Watson here on ZNS, where only the sun covers the Bahamas better.
Welcome back. Are you excited for another new season of the Timeout? We have some great shows in store for you, so make sure to stay tuned to the Timeout. And we're starting things off right with the legends. Boy, I feel like I'm in royalty this morning. I'm with Stancel Ferguson. If you can remember those days in the Prairie Grounds, the Hollowed Hall, the Beck's Cougars. Welcome to the show, Stancel.
Thank you for having me.
Well, good to see you. I feel like I'm in royalty. You know, when you go to visit Prince Charles at the Buckingham Palace, that's how I feel, because growing up, I've always heard about you guys, but to finally get to meet you and talk to you, it is a pleasure.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here to enlighten probably those younger people, fans and basketball fans who never saw the Cougars, and probably I could impart some things to them.
Tell us, how did this team get started? How did this all start?
It goes back to Fred Papa Smith, actually. It was in 1967. Basketball had been on a break for a while due to some problems. And so once basketball was reorganized under the late Vince Ferguson in 1967, basketball started. We started with 3 teams, as a matter of fact. It was the Olo Cougars, you had St. Bernard's, and you had Carter's, Tashi, the Charles Carter father's business. And so there were 3 teams, and we played outside at various spots in Joseph, our ladies, for a period of time. It was really, it was really Fred Papa Smith that put the team together for us to compete in the league.
How did it come to be known as the Beck's Cougars, though?
First of all, we were the Olo Cougars at the time. Mm-hmm. And we played under the name. We were sponsored by, I think that was Burns South, the late Bradley Roberts was the sponsor for us. And so that was the Olo Cougars. How the name became the Cougars, my understanding was, and I wasn't there that night that happened, that I understand the Cougar was the car of the year. And so because the Cougar was the car of the year, they called it the Olo Cougars. And so we played under the Olo Cougars banner for about 10 years. And then eventually we changed some sponsors and went to the Beck's Cougars.
No, not everybody or anybody could have been a Cougar. How were the players selected? How did you get them?
Well, you know, that's a good one, because basically Fred Papa Smith coached a junior team at the time on the Prairie, and we were rivals. I came from Our Ladies, and they were the Prairie guys. And so I think my understanding is that the late Daddy-O Stephen Mitchell encouraged Papa to start a Division I team. Fred had first played for St. Bernard's, which was one of the better teams in the league, and then after that, Daddy-O asked him to encourage him to start a Division I team, and so because he had a couple of players in the junior league at the time, and then there were a couple of players who were coming out of the junior league who he played against, and Daddy-O spoke to him about probably selecting them to put them on the team, because at that time St. Bernard's and Pindus were probably the two top teams in basketball.
Viewers, once again, we are speaking with Stancel Ferguson, and let's go down memory lane a bit. 1967, the first game I'm being told
yes.
was when it was played. Can you recall how that went?
Yes, and then that game opened at St. Joseph Park, and we played Carters that night. Obviously, we won the game. I think when you look back at the score, you say 53-43 or 53-40. That's kind of a low scoring, but that was really our first game. That was our first season, and that was the first season. We won that. As a matter of fact, we went about 9-1 that year. Unfortunately, they didn't have any post-tournament, and so we just were the division champs that year.
And then 1973, that independence tournament came about. Then you got these guys who believed that they went away to college, they could come back and they could beat you all, and y'all just let them know.
That was so exciting for me. What really stays with me for a long time. If a little history. Normally around that time, and that was July, Fred Papa Smith, who was the player coach, and Jason Moxie, who was, of course, one of our better players on the team, they would not be around at that time because they normally left just at the beginning of the playoffs. They went back to play baseball.
Okay.
And so when the tournament time came around, we didn't have Jason and Fred, and so I was left with in charge of coaching the team. Fortunately for us, Peter Gilcould came home. Because, he was in Minnesota at the time, and Peter Gilcould came home, and we had R.H. Culmer. He bought R.H. Culmer, and of course we had our team with Sammy Bucky Johnson and Fred Line and a couple of other players. And what was so exciting about that is because that was the introduction to basketball. The basketball world was introduced to Elijah McSweeney, one of the most exciting players who've ever played in our league. And he just had that tournament, woo and ah, and that. And we met them in the championship game. The Cougars met them in the championship game, and that was Elijah McSweeney. Some of the names, the late Carl Mintz, really good players, Docious Ali, and a couple of other players. But we won that game. I think what really rested me also is that was independence. And I don't know if we were the first organization to do it. But when the singing of the national anthem, that was really just before the championship game, that would always be with me.
Where was it played? Was it Jampa?
Oh yes, it was played at the C.I. Gibson Gymnasium. That was full of people because, like I said, I think the Classic Pros and the College All-Star played the first game, and from that night on, after the word got around, Elijah McSweeney, yes.
And you coached the Cougars over a few years. How long did you coach the Cougars, and how was your tenure?
Whenever Fred went to play baseball, I was left in charge of the team. And the record wasn't too good because we were going into the playoffs. And, we had lost 3 consecutive. Well, Fred was here for one of them, but the first time I coached the team, I was left with the coach. We lost to the Paradise Island team twice, as a matter of fact. But eventually, on the third one, we won. And so that was my stint at coaching at the beginning. But further on, after I quit playing, the Cougars established a Division II team, and I became the coach of the Division II team. And for a period of time. And then eventually, I became the coach of the Division I team after Fred Papa Smith, after John Todd, after Arthur Roll, after Peter Brown, and so it finally fell to me to be the coach. And I always thought to myself that, you know, you are coaching the Cougars right now, and the teams compared to what it used to be, you struggle with these things. But I had an idea what I wanted to do, and I knew that I was going to coach. And when I stopped coaching, I wanted to leave the Cougars in good hands and a good team. And the year before I stopped coaching, we won the Commonwealth Championship.
Well, we're going to take a break right here, boy, because your memory is quite good way back in the 67. And take a break here on the timeout, and when we come back, some more of those ooh and ah moments from the Cougars rivalry back in the 60s.
Covering the news seems easy, but we put thought into what we're doing. The Bahamas Tonight Access Now, here to inform, educate, and entertain. A new type of newscast featuring social media trends, news from around the islands, interviews with the people you like, sports, weather, and fabulous entertainment. That's a Bahamas Tonight Access Now with Marcellus Hall and LaDon Davis. Live, starting September 16th.
We're back on the timeout with Stancel Ferguson, legendary Cougars coach. And tell us about those rivalries in the early 80s and 70s with the Colonels.
Well, first, the Colonels team, the original Colonels team, they were St. Bernard's. In that first year, when the league was reorganized in '67, we had lost one game, and we lost to them, St. Bernard's. But eventually, they evolved and to the Kentucky Colonels. The year was, I think it was the year that Sterling Quant came home. If those who remember Sterling Quant was drafted by a team to play in the ABA. He didn't make the team, but he came back. And once Sterling Quant came back, and Sammy Bookie Johnson came back from school, they all went to Central State, I believe. They all came back, and Keith Smith. And that was the year that I think basketball had reached its highest popularity. There were two divisions. The Colonels was in one division, the Cougars was in one division. And we met for the championship that first year, with both teams going 20 and undefeated in the division. And that was the first time because we had won the year before, and the series at the time was the best 2 out of 3, and we beat them in the best 2 out of 3 series. We beat them that year, but unfortunately, the Colonels beat us the next 3 consecutive years for the championship. So the rivalry was always there.
Let me put you on a limb right here. Who would you say is the best Cougar ever? You say Fred, Eli. You heard you say Elijah McSweeney. You say Fred had to go away to school. Who would you consider? You're not going to get into trouble.
The best Cougar?
Yeah, player.
That's a tough one. We've had so many good players. I don't think that somebody like Fred Papa Smith, we ever saw the best of Fred Papa Smith, because Fred Papa Smith career in basketball playing here locally was interrupted by his desire to play baseball. And why do I say that? Fred and I played junior league together, 16, 17. And when Vince Ferguson took a team to Florida, coached a team from Florida, Fred Papa Smith was the starting point guard on that team as a junior leaguer. So Fred had this natural knack for basketball. But we've had so many good players. You know, you would hear the names like Jason Moxey, Sammy Bookie Johnson, Peter Gilcoot, Peter Brown, Fred Papa Smith. They were probably some of the top players. Reggie Forbes. They're some of the top Cougar players. I may miss one or two, but they were some of the top Cougar players.
Whatever happened to the Cougars? I know a lot of folks are there asking, whatever happened to them? They're not in the NPBA. We didn't hear back from them after the early 90s.
Well, the thing, I'm not sure I could put it accurately, but I think if you get in a mindset, the individuals that were responsible for those teams in those days, that was the commitment that we had. Coaching teams, developing teams. We always had a good junior program, but to be in charge of those teams, and then in addition to that, you had your personal things that you had to take sure. That became a challenge for me because as I moved up in my job, there were less time that I had to dedicate to the team. And so I saw my end coming, and I tried to get somebody to coach the team. And being the Cougars, we always stayed within those people who played for the Cougars and who were the Cougars. And so when I left, I passed it on to Reggie Forbes, and I think Reggie Forbes only coached probably about 1 year. And after that, that was the end of the Cougars.
Clean sports. That is the mantra of BADC, the Bahamas Anti-Doping Commission, the local body responsible for the control and prevention of doping in sports here at home. Often seen working the sidelines at local sporting events, their role in sports administration sometimes undersung. But today we take a deeper dive into the commission and how the nearly 70-member body functions. Executive Director, Petra Haven.
So participating without performance enhancers, essentially. And then in addition to educating, we also test. So we test for urine, and we test blood as well. So we do national level athletes, we do international level athletes. So essentially, whenever there's a major event here, we are the sample collectors. Whenever we have national events, we're responsible for that testing program as well.
And while enforcement may be what you first associate with the commission, for them, education is equally as important.
It's equally important for us to make sure we educate the general public and the athletes as well on this importance of clean sports, because sometimes, there is some inadvertent doping. So we always advise our athletes, before you take something, make sure you check it out to make sure that it's not a prohibited substance. And we do have resources available for that. There is something called globaldro.com. You literally type the substance in. You type what sport you're a part of, and it tells you plain as day, yes, it's prohibited, no, it's not prohibited.
2024, as you can imagine, an exceedingly busy one for BADC, with the Paris Olympic Games being held. Their work, while vital, also very tedious.
Being an Olympic year made our job even extra busy. Because we have to prepare for the Olympics. We have to make sure that we follow international regulations, because most international federations require that there's some level of testing prior to the Olympics happening, rather maybe months before or right before, and then there's also a level of testing that happens during the Olympics that is done by the International Testing Agency.
Now, for the hot button issue with the Bahamas being home to hundreds of talented athletes, have any over the past calendar year tested positive for a banned substance?
We do have some pending cases. Obviously we do operate confidentially, and we can't speak on any pending cases. But what I can say is, yes, we do have some that are currently happening. And once they are completed, we do have a responsibility to advise their international federations of who they are and what has happened. And then also we have to place that information on our website, because it has to be public information as well.
The Commission remains hard at work ensuring the compliance of the Anti-Doping in Sports Act, which was enacted by the Parliament of the Bahamas in August of 2009. For Time Out, I'm Amajal Knowles.
Time Out!
Hey, what's up, Mario?
Hey Dale, what's going on?
Have you seen ZNS new digital platforms?
No, let me go check it out.
Good day, Bahamas. I'm Devontae Hanna, and this is ZNS Digital,
where we cater to your news and entertainment needs.
Are you a foodie? I thought so. Then look out for Digital Bites.
Shining a light on Bahamians and the good that they do, ZNS Digital is home to the sunshine.
Keeping up with the latest trends, our original content will keep you entertained.
Yeah, that's cool.
But have you seen the new website?
No, I didn't see it. Let me go look.
We're still your most trusted source for news and information.
That's ZNS Digital?
Yeah, that's ZNS Digital, the people station in your pocket.
FYI, St. Francis Xavier Cathedral, home of the legendary Prairie Grounds, a court where the famed Bex Cougars basketball team originated. Just thought you'd like to know. It's time now for sports from the north, followed by the Timeout's fitness tip.
Competitive bodybuilding was once at an all-time high here on Grand Bahama, and local shows were the driving force that pushed the athletes toward delivering big time on the national and international stage. But it's taken a bit of a nosedive in recent times, according to 20-year veteran Big Rob Harris. A former Northern Bahamas, Mr. Bahamas, and Freeport Association president in his own right, he's witnessed the decline firsthand, and one of the reasons is simple. The sport is one of the most expensive ones there is.
Where the average person maybe for themselves will spend like $50 to $100 a week in terms of food, the average athlete, if they're female, has to spend about $150 a week, and if they're male, between $200 to $250 a week. That's for like your proteins and food and whatnot. That's not to mention your supplements. If you do your supplements, now you're looking at between $100 to $300 a month. And so literally, this sport will cost you about $1,000 a month if you want to do it right. And then that's at a local level. If you want to go to a pro level, you're spending about $1,000 to $2,000 a month.
There are a few local athletes taking the international stage in the interim, but that's where he believes the government can step in financially, given the country's place in bodybuilding on an international scale.
So that's where the government, if they could help, it could revitalize it. Because different than other countries, the Bahamas has done a tremendous amount for the Bodybuilding Federation. And we're looked upon by other nations as a leader in the sport.
And while there's a new regime seeking to push the sport forward, he recalls one individual that brought an overwhelming cachet to the sport, not just here, but around the globe.
Bring back Joel Stubbs. Because it isn't that there aren't talented people. I just don't know of anyone better than him. That's just it. Like, I come a close second, but with him, he's so well connected, respected. He's actually in the history books as the largest back in bodybuilding history. Great guy, and people love him and respect him. So whatever he kind of puts his hands on, people say, well, if Joel's doing it, I'll do it too.
But is there room for the sport to return to its former glory here on the island? Harris certainly thinks so, but it's going to take greater support from the business community and also a greater effort from the athletes.
Back when I was president, we had a lot of local trainers that were former competitors. And so they urged the athletes to compete, and they actually built athletes. So you had people like Dwight Palacios, a former Mr. Bahamas, P.K. Kemp, a former Mr. Bahamas. You had Petra Bryce, a former Miss Bahamas. You had Glenn Stubbs. He never competed, but he actually helped make athletes like Tammy Stubbs. Also a couple different bikini athletes as well, and he's a real motivator.
Funding from corporate Grand Bahama might be all but non-existent, but Harris remains confident in the revival and renaissance of bodybuilding.
Where you would get like 5 or 6 people for a show nowadays, the last show that we put on had 75 athletes, and the record is 76. I missed about 1. So I'd like to get back into that, promoting shows and making it so that this place is like on the map. And it can be on the map because the athletes are still good. The people are still good.
For the Timeout, I'm Shane Stubbs.
Hey, what's up once again, everybody? Coach Marcellus here, upliftmindandbody.com, here at our usual spot and hangout, Physique Total Fitness here on Dunmore Avenue. Special shout out to proprietor Keith Hinsey for allowing us to continue to use his facilities. Meanwhile, let's get right on into it. Our fitness tip for today is proper form when you're doing a bicep curl, double bicep curl using the dumbbells. And you can actually use this same technique if you're using a barbell as well. But for today's purposes, we do have the dumbbells, so I'll show you exactly how we're gonna do this to make sure you get the proper utilization out of the motion, keeping time under tension, allowing maximum growth and impact on those biceps, okay? So we're gonna grab our 2 dumbbells here. All right, now what I like to do is hold them closer to the top, not in the middle. All right, so here's what my technique is gonna be. I'm gonna turn to the side so you can see, and I'm gonna bring those elbows up and into my body here before I do my curl. Back straight, chest projected. We call that proud chest, and we're gonna come right up and squeeze that dumbbell. And you can feel immediately, if you keep that here, keep those elbows up and back into that motion, squeeze it right through the motion right here, top and bottom, full range of motion here, all right? All the way up, squeeze, all the way down. And that's your motion there to make sure you get the most out of a bicep curl, proper bicep form and function, making sure you get it right. Once again, this has been your fitness tip. Today's lesson, proper dumbbell form. Hope this was helpful for you. And if it was, be sure and reach out and let us know exactly what you thought of it. I'm Coach Marcellus once again from upliftmindandbody.com. We'll see you again on Timeout next week.
Thanks, Marcellus. Well, that brings this edition of the show to an end. Thank you for watching. Until the next show, time out!